Hey guys, I am so glad you stopped by. Today, doing dessert, and we're gonna do another recipe from the box. This one is a deep dish cherry and peach pie. And I have quickly learned recipes like this never get boring. You find some recipes that you get them and they are very straightforward, like somebody has done them in a test kitchen, so they're gonna work, right? And then those are kind of like what you learn off of. At least that's how I learned, between YouTube videos and known trusted recipes, and we've pretty much learned together over the years. But now we're delving into things that somebody wrote down at some point, and I do this, where they know all the missing pieces. This could have some missing pieces. It's written kind of weird. I mean, not completely weird. I kind of get it, because we're going to divide some stuff up and we're going to add some to some things and, take away from others. But it's all written down on this itty bitty little card, front and back. And here's the best part: if you're younger, I mean, you're pretty much younger than 30, you probably won't be able to read it because it's in cursive. And I mean not that you can really see it, but yeah, there you go. It's written in cursive. I mean, that's what we're working off of right there. So even those people who learn to write in cursive and read cursive pretty well will be the first to tell you sometimes cursive can look like chicken scratch. So that made it challenging. So not only am I trying to read somebody's mind I don't know on some things, but I have to decipher it too. I have a lemon jello recipe that's sitting over here that's kind of the same way. Not that it's a hard recipe by any means, but I mean, that's the whole recipe right there in a nutshell, beginning to end. That's ingredients and how to put it together. And it's done in 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 lines. 5 ingredients, 5 lines. But I get it, I've read it a lot. So first step to this was, like any recipe, read through it. Only in this case, I read through it slowly, and I read through it again, and I read through it again, and I made some mental notes along the way. But anyhow, this deep dish cherry peach pie is fairly straightforward. It's quick. It's probably quicker than I have taken the time to talk here, and I think that'll work. So my battery's about to die. Let me get it changed and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just happened to look up and the light's flashing on my battery, and that's never a good sign. But anyhow, we're gonna work through this together. Like I said, fairly straightforward. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad you stopped by. If you're returning or one of our new subscribers, thank you and welcome back. If you are new, we try our best to go slow. I talk a lot. That way you're successful, right? I think that's more important to me than a 3-minute video. I even catch some slack from it on occasion, by being told I talk too much, my videos are too long. My videos average now anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, which is your average TV show. But anyhow, on that note, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you're so inclined. Comments always welcomed. I love comments. I respond to them all, good, bad, or indifferent. And all I ever ask is that you be polite. It's okay to disagree. Just think before you type, right? You can always have a civil conversation and not agree. I think that's I will give you all your measurements and cups, tablespoons, teaspoons. I will also give you your measurements in grams and milliliters. And for the most part, I do them very well, especially with baking, but occasionally I get them wrong. And if I do, the recipe is always down in the description below. So that way you'll have an accurate numbers and you'll have an accurate way of doing this. So that being said, why don't we head on down to the counter now and we will get started on this. All right, hold on for me just 1 second. Okay. We are down here in the pit, so to speak. Actually, you've now seen my entire kitchen if you're new. But things we will need. We'll need a couple bowls. We don't really need a stand mixer, I don't believe. And we are going to need a pie pan. Now, this says deep dish. And there were a couple clues, because it doesn't say how deep, right? But it does say use a 9-inch springform pan or a deep pie plate. And it also says that we're going to take the crust up the edge about 1.25 inches, inch and a half. I believe it's it's either 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches, but you're going to take it up the sides a good ways. Well, this is 1 inch right here on my pie plate, and that's about 1/4 to 1/2. So I think we've got that covered right there. And I almost went with the 9-inch springform pan just so I could see if we could pop it apart and have it hold on its own, because that would be really cool. But no, this is a pie, so in the description, we're gonna make it in a pie plate. So, deep dish 9-inch pie plate. Turn our oven on 350 degrees. Bam, right there. We've accomplished our 2 things. I have 2 bowls, all right? And in our first bowl, our medium-sized bowl, I have got in here 1 1/4 cup, 150 grams worth of just regular old all-purpose flour. To this, we are going to add some oats. Now I'm using old-fashioned oats or rolled oats, and you're going to need a total of 1 1/4 cups, right? Or 125 grams, but we need them divided. So we need 1 cup, 100 grams, and then you need 25 grams or 1/4 cup in a separate container. And we're going to put those in there next. Now I do want to show you something real quick. Get that in there. To show you a difference. Okay, so that right there, if you can see it, see how those are like really small compared to this one? Sorry, I'm looking into my monitor so I can see what I'm doing. These are rolled oats. They're a little thicker, they're bigger. Quick oats, a little thinner, and smaller in size. Those will cook quickly, hence quick oats. Old-fashioned oats will also cook in just a hair longer than the quick oats, because they're just a hair thicker. But then you have what's called steel oats. Those are the oats that you soak overnight. So when you're baking, you either want to go with a quick oat or a rolled oat when using oats. I am using a rolled oat or an old-fashioned oat. So we got that in there. Next thing we're going to add to this is a 1/2 cup, 100 grams of just regular old plain granulated sugar. And then get all that out of there. Must have been a little bit of water in the bottom of that. Is it stuck to the bottom? Anybody else get that? I try my hardest to make sure all my dishes are dry when I put them away. And believe you me, I do a lot of dishes throughout the day. And yet I inevitably end up with something that still got water in it. And then I got a 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of baking powder. That's not to be confused with baking soda. And then I'm going to give this, just grab a fork real quick, and I'm just going to give this a quick blend together. And what we're doing is, this pie's kind of interesting. This is not only going to be the crust, but it's going to be the topping also. It's going to be like a pie, you know, like you'd use with pie crust. But in this case, the pie crust is kind of a crumble, which is that's the reason why I jumped on this one. I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So we got that put in there. And then the next thing we got to put in is going to be 1/2 cup, 114 grams, 1 stick, right, of 8 tablespoons, 1 stick of butter. And this is softened. It's not quite room temperature, and it's cubed. All right, and we're going to throw that in there. And then we've got 2 ways we can run about this. Because what we're going to do is basically turn this into a meal that's in here. Now, I don't mean like meal like we're going to eat dinner, but a meal like we want to make it crumbly. So you could just simply use your hands, get in here with these cubes, the small cubes of butter, and we can just start rubbing it in our fingers, right? Just like we're making a homemade pie crust. Or we can use a cutter, which the recipe actually says use a cutter, but either way it goes. But we're looking to turn this into a fine, like a sand, like a meal. Okay, so we have got our initial, oats and flour mix in with the butter, and that's pretty much where we're at. Oven's heated up. Yeah, and it, like I said, grains of sand. Yeah, and if you have like small clumps, pea-sized clumps of butter in there, it's okay. All it's gonna do is add to the richness of the crust. Let me pop that door real quick. So Next thing we're gonna do is where the small bowl comes in handy is we're gonna grab about a cup of this mix right here, and we're gonna put it into this bowl right here. And then to this, we're gonna add a quarter cup of oats, right? That 25 grams worth of oats into that, along with the remaining quarter cup of the 3/4 cups of butter, or our 57 grams of cubed butter. We're gonna put that in there. And then we are gonna do the exact same thing with this small bowl that we did with the initial setup. This is gonna be the base of our pie crust. This is gonna be the crumble that goes on top. Okay, so we got our topping done, and you'll notice that the topping is more dense. It's not like crumbly like this is, right? And the reason for that is we're gonna break that up to put it on top. That was done by design, I'm sure, for this recipe. So now we'll set the smaller bowl aside with our topping on it. We're gonna go back to the bottom. So with this crust, we are gonna take 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters of just room temperature water, and we're gonna put that in there, and then we're gonna take a fork, which you could also use to fork on this, or your hands, like I said. But we're gonna take this fork and we're just gonna mix this water in here. We're gonna get it forked down in there until it's nice and moist, or a little more moist than it already is. Okay, so we believe it or not, that 2 tablespoons was all it took. Yeah, we are. It's almost like that now, to some extent, without using the extra butter, which is kind of cool and crazy all at the same time, right? So we'll go ahead and see how we're now kind of clumpy and we hold together, right? So that's what we were looking for. So now we'll take our pan, our pie pan here, and we're gonna go ahead and put this in here. And remember, we're gonna pack this down into the pie crust, so it is an inch and a half. Yes, it's an inch and a half up the sides, is what the recipe calls for. So we'll go ahead and take this down, we'll go flat, and then we'll take it up the side. And just like we did with that pie the other day, I'm just gonna stick my finger in here and make sure we get that high up without having to worry about going over making it uneven. So I have one finger down to control it, and we'll be pushing in with the other. All right, so we got that done, and you're saying to yourself, Brian, that is not the same pie crust or pie pan you started with. You're right, it's not. Somebody's version of deep dish and my version of deep dish, I think, are 2 different things. Because that, even though is a 1.5 inch pie crust, it was not nearly going up the sides the way I liked it. If it did, if I'd have taken it up as high as that recipe calls for, I wouldn't have gotten it the thickness I wanted it to be. In my mind, I don't think a super thin pie crust, that just tells me we're on our way to cobbler, not pie. But so I went ahead and changed it to a shallower pie pan. This is a 1 inch pie pan, 1 inch. It's also my favorite. So, and I got it in up around the edges. So now we're gonna put this in the oven, and we're gonna let this bake in the oven, center rack, 350 degrees, right? For 15 minutes. And then, we'll keep an eye on it. You want to keep an eye on it. Don't necessarily run to the store, right? We are looking for a golden brown in color. All right. So when I come back, we'll take a look at this and finish up the last few things we have to do. All right. I'll see you here in just 1 second. All right, and we're back. So we went ahead, got the pie crust done, 15 minutes, and it didn't really. I mean, it changed obviously, but it didn't really do what I thought it would. But then I didn't know because I've never made a pie crust like this. But here we are, and it's still light in color. It's a little golden brown around the edge there, and it's, but it's firmer. It's a lot firmer than it was. Although I still have what looks like a wet spot there. Why, I don't know, but that's okay. I'm assuming we baked that for a couple reasons. A, it'll give it some hardness, but it'll also keep our filling from soaking through. That's my guess. I don't know, because I don't know the science behind pies. I just know that if I follow the instructions, it should turn out okay. And I mean, I know some nuances, right? But I don't know all the sciences. I didn't go to school for any of this. But we're gonna leave that sit there for just a second. Not till it completely cools though, oddly enough. Not turning off our oven, because we gotta put our pie back in there. So, in this bowl, I have a 20-ounce can of cherry pie filling, which is, oh, turn it around, 567 grams. I don't know why I didn't just look over at the can. And then we have a 15-ounce can. Well, it's a 16-ounce can here, but it's a 15-ounce can because that's what they sell at this grocery store. Now at 245 grams of peaches. Right there, right? And now I got these in juice, and I just drained off all the excess juice. You know, I didn't sit there and squeeze them and wring them out. I just poured off what juice was in the can, put them in a container. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those in, just like that. Then we're gonna get these mixed together right quick. Won't take 2 seconds, right? Just like that. And then we can just grab a spoon and start eating, because this looks incredible, right? I mean, does that not just look like something you could just put in a bowl and move on with? If it were a little firmer, like that would make a great jello. A cherry jello with peaches cut up and just cherries in it. Amazing. I think we should try that one of these days. So we'll go ahead and get our pie crust over here where we can play with it for a second. Down here, and like I said, we're not letting it cool completely. Meh. Right? At least not according to the recipe. It just says let it cool down a little bit, right? We're cooled down a little bit. I can hold it for 3 seconds. So now we're going to take our pie filling, and today's barking dog is brought to you by Bo, my neighbor. Bo has been around forever and a day, and when he comes outside, he likes to see who's out. I've watched this long enough now. I mean, he barks at us too when we go outside. He is a very protective dog, which is, that's not horrible. It has its moments, but it's not horrible. So we'll go ahead and, but when he first comes out and he starts barking, it's because he's looking to see what other dogs are outside. Everybody in this neighborhood has a dog, and he will get them all going on the barking chain as quickly as possible. So we've got the, man, that looks just gorgeous the way it is. I'm not gonna lie, beautiful. So got our pie crust, or our pie filling in there. So the next thing we're gonna do is take the crumble we made, right? That's been sitting there waiting patiently, and we're gonna put it on top. All right, we have got our, ooh, that's warm. And I stuck my finger in the cherry filling, but yep. Don't do that at home, folks. But there we are. There is our pre-baked pie. So now we can go ahead and throw this in the oven. Remember, we're still at 350 degrees, and we are gonna bake this for 30 to 35 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put mine on 35, and I will check it at about 25. I am going to assume, even though I assumed wrong, and you know what happens when you assume, you make a out of you and me, that we are going to look for a golden brown top. And I base that on the fact that, you know, we've got that little bit of sugar in there, but we also got a lot of butter in this crust, or in the crumb top versus the crust. Remember, we stuck that extra butter in there. So I'm assuming we're going to get a golden brown out of that, but we'll see. So when I come back, we will take a look at the pie. I will have it cooled, because we're going to let it cool down to room temperature, which will take about an hour. But we will take a look at it, see what it looks like, and hopefully try a piece without any issues. All right, see you here in just 1 second. Okay, so we got her done, right? Did that not look beautiful? I mean, just beautiful. I'm impressed, and I haven't even tried any of it yet. I know it smells good. I mean, it really, the house smelled great. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, I am worried though. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, because I don't know how that bottom crust is gonna be. I mean, this is a whole new crust to me, so I don't know, you know, is it gonna cut? Is it gonna break? Is it gonna, I mean, what's it gonna do? That always, things like that worry me, but we'll see, right? We'll find out together. All right, guys. Well, it almost worked, right? So let me show you what happened. Right there is our pie. You know, still looking beautiful. I got the piece out. It's solid. I mean, the cherries need to sit maybe a little longer than like overnight. Because I know, like with my cherry pie, if it can sit overnight in the fridge, it is 10 times better than if you just let it cool to room temperature. But our crust, our bottom crust, stuck to the pan, and that's all right, because we essentially just went from having a piece of pie to cobbler. That's all. I mean, because it does look amazing, and I have no doubt that it's going to taste good. I have yet to actually try it, so we're going to try it right now and find out, just to see. But that begs the question, because I'm going to think about it too, and I'll probably put something down in the comments a little later. What could we do different to keep that crust from sticking? Because I like the thought of having that crust, you know, that it's like a shortbread crust essentially, and I would like to see it maybe try and work. Maybe I'll work on it a little, but let's see how it tastes at any rate before we go any further. That's good. If I were to throw this back in the oven for about 10 minutes, warm it back up, this would be delightful, a delightful cobbler. It's really good at room temperature, you know, hands down. I'm gonna give this a, you know, give it a try. Because maybe I did something wrong, you know, with the crust, or, you know, maybe this is the way it's supposed to be. You know, I don't know. I don't even know who wrote this recipe to tell you, but I can tell you it's good. Or sorry, I had to eat that piece. Instead of doing this with the bottom crust, you could do a graham cracker crust or a Nilla wafer crust, or you could just do a regular old single layer crust. I think would be good with this crumb topping on top of it. I mean, the exchange rate possibilities are endless, but all the same, if you have something similar that you do to this, I'm going to tell you, give this a try, because it's well worth the effort, because there is no effort. But I need to figure out why the crust stuck to the bottom. That's an interesting one for me. But anyhow, let me know if you've got something like this, or if there's something that you would do differently to prevent that from happening. Or if you give this a try, let me know. It may work for you. I may have done something a little weird that just didn't work. Maybe not enough butter, or the right type of butter. Maybe not enough fat content. That could be it, to the sugar ratio. But anyhow, let me know if you do try this, or if you have a recipe of your own that's similar with this type of pie crust on the bottom. I would be curious to hear. So next week for dinner and dessert, as always, I have no clue. No clue. I do have surgery coming up, depending on when this video comes out, February 5th. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the game on video so we don't miss a beat, but there's always a possibility that could happen. I'm hoping not, but I will keep everybody posted on how things go. That we're going to, they're going to go in real quick and break apart a rather large stone that's in my kidneys, and check out the rest of my system while they're in there. While they're under the hood, they're going to give me a complete look over. But anyhow, next week, like I said, don't know. But until then, I love you. I love you very much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them and love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's going to make them smile either way it goes. And it's going to make you smile and feel good on the inside to tell them that. And if you give them some of this peach cherry cobbler, I'm going to call it that now instead of a pie, I guarantee they're going to smile, because it tastes wonderful. And it's going to lead to some conversation, a cup of coffee, glass of milk, That just depends on who you are and where you're at, right? So, until next week, I love you, and I will see you then. All right? Bye-bye.